Overland, Sabbath-day, your host today. If you can hear me, say hello, please.
We can hear you, Peter.
All right, so I'll come again. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to In Truth and in Spirit, Well of Worship Fellowship. Your moderator today is Peter Calverland, Sabbath-day. In Truth and in Spirit, Well of Worship Fellowship is a non-denomination fellowship teaching that Christ is the only true God, the creator and the savior of this world. In this fellowship, we also think that continuous education is one of the values and the purposes of humans in this broken planet. And without education, we can hardly have a functioning society. Moreover, a well-functioning society. It is upon that background that I'm glad to introduce to you our topical discussion this evening. But before we do that, may I welcome members here, some of whom are colleagues of mine at Chambogo University, and others are my students, but also my colleagues at the same time. I would like to welcome Baker Kwikiriza, is a year 2 student of English language and literature. We have Lubwama Alan Konde, is a second year student of English language and literature, a teacher trainee. Sharif Muhanguzi is a former student, is an alma mater of Chambogo University, currently a graduate teacher and a practicing one. We have Nabukela Olivia, I cannot trace, but also I want to believe he's one of us. She must be a colleague as well. Madam Goret Hugeza is a colleague, is doing his PhD in France. Currently, he's a French major, also a journalist and a teacher trainer. You're very much welcome. My host tonight.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. My bienvenue, madame.
Merci, Pierre.
My host today is Jethro Musoke, and I would like to remind each and everyone on this forum that this talk here, or this discussion, is being recorded. So I wanted to declare that, be you informed that it is being recorded, and feel free to submit and enjoy. I would like to give ourselves 3 more minutes, 3 more minutes to relax, but I've not introduced the topic. The topic of our discussion is rethinking our education system. That is, and we are looking at the purpose of education, the education policy, and the progress of education. How relevant is our education? Does it need review? And review on what? Is our problem review or implementation? What is the purpose of education? What does education serve in Uganda? Or what does it ought to serve? Those are some of the questions. There have been several review commissions or education review reports. There have been many, I think since 1927, I think 1938, and so on, until the latest of the 2025 review or report. So in a bid to correct, or in a bid to improve our education system. Yeah, so we give ourselves 1 more minute and we shall open. I shall return at exactly 6:11. You're welcome. All right. Welcome once again. Welcome to In Truth and in Spirit, Well of Worship Fellowship. And tonight, our topic of discussion is rethinking our education system, purpose, that is, purpose, policy, and progress. Once again, Your moderator tonight is Peter Calveland Serubide. I am a teacher by profession, and no one can frustrate me out of my profession. I specialize in English language and communication. Tonight, we are bothered with the question of education. And I think we shall need to first with the big terms. We need to first define the big terms here. That is education and then education system. But before that, it is important for us to remember that before education defines a society, the society must define education. I come again. Before education defines society, that society must have defined education. It is from that definition that practice is engendered. And when we talk of education here, when people make a statement that education was introduced in 1875, they insinuate that those who introduced, whenever you say education was introduced in 1875, you insinuate that those who existed in this geographical area known as Uganda, or this political area known as Uganda today, were never educated. Yet, we would like to assert, and rightly so, that the introduction of Western education found educated and uneducated. In fact, I doubt whether there were anyone, there were any people who were uneducated. But the Western education, which was introduced in 1875, or to be less specific, in the 19th century in Uganda, found an education system here. So it is not true that they were coming to the uneducated. There was an education system here taking place until 1875. When the first schools were established in Uganda in 1898, the people who lived in the Uganda then, which had not probably been defined in such a manner, were also going through their education system. And they were getting educated according to the needs, the pressing needs of their society, of their time, according to their era, and according to their needs. So what am I saying here? Education is need-based, okay? And the needs of society. And one of the speakers here, I will invite one of the discussants. We were here discussing something, and he gave me an interesting spin on the argument of education, what education is precisely, or basically what education is or ought to be, and what society is. So in these first 15 minutes, I would like to have a working definition or what an ideal definition of education. And allow me invite Dr. Mukwana, Isaac Nicholas, to give us the view, his view on two main terms. First, what is education? And because this is a discussion not only for the academics or the academics, there is a way he has defined. We have been imbibing on it this afternoon, and I like the way he simplified the definition. So, Dr. Mukwana, could you please define education, and after education, define society? Why? Because I said that before education defines society, the society must define this education. The definition of education, the definition of society. Dr. Bishop Isaac Mukwana.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, my brother Peter, for the opportunity you've given me to share. Straight to the point, Education, of course, has been defined differently by various authors, but education in simplest terms means the preparation of the young to fit in society, serve that society as they serve themselves. So we take children to school, first of all, because a society agrees that this is how we want our society to be. By society, I mean people and their belongings, a group of people and their belongings. In the United States of America, every state has its own curriculum. And again, every district has its own specialized curriculum, because every society has their own unique challenges, their own resources, their own ideologies. There are things that a particular society might define to be dear. And those things are the things they include in the curriculum, such that when their children go to school, they acquire those things. I'll give you an example. In Uganda, children greeting elders is very highly regarded. And the manner in which you greet also matters. Now, I don't know whether Asim is online here, but the West have been told that that's not very important. My learners just tell me that in the West, you wake up and say, how are you? How are you, father? Or how did you sleep? Or good morning. In Uganda, it's if you greeted your father, how are you, you'd get a slap. That means that ideally the West deserves its own curriculum, or a curriculum that they feel can prepare their young to serve themselves in that community as they serve the community, the society. And the Buganda is also another culture. In fact, even in the East, there are things we hold so dear. For example, in the East, in Busoga, Samia, Bugisu, Bunyole, everybody is a king. This idea of kingship is just tied on us. The Samias call themselves Omohongo. Omohongo means big man. So my father, if I was Samia, can wake up in the morning and say, Omohongo, Oliotie. My father can greet me, big man, how are you? In Busoga, most of you should be familiar with the phrase Baba, Chibaba. Baba means literally father. You know? In Imbali, they say every man is a king as long as he is circumcised. So you see, those values, once you understand them, you fit in your society. So an education system ought to look at their resources they have and how best can their young manipulate the available resources so that they can serve that society as they serve themselves. So as the resources continue to change, or as the resources are discovered and rediscovered, then the curriculum is reviewed to meet the prevailing needs at the time. There were times when there was rain in February. Right now, we don't have rain. That could imply that there is a change. And that should call for curriculum reviewers. What should we do? How can we go through February? I've also heard of phrases like Black November. Why should we have Black November year in and year out? No, those are now the challenges that a particular society must come and address. For example, whereas in February in Uganda, we are facing terrible heat, in most parts of Europe and America, they are in winter. So we cannot really study the same things because we don't have the same challenges. I hope that could set a stage for our discussion and much more. But ideally, if I can summarize, a society is a group of people and their belongings and their values and their attitudes. That is a society. And an education is the preparation of the young to be able to fit in that society, serve themselves as they serve that society. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mkwana, for that clarity. In your presentation, first, you have said education is specifically to the young. Can't it be to the old as well? And in which manner? That's number one. Number two, you have rightly observed that that education, the purpose of education is to make those who are getting educated to fit in their society, meaning it is society-based. In other words, an education system that alienates you from your society is not, it falls short of an appropriate education. I would like also to ask, must that society be a local society? What if somebody argued it should be a global society? How about that, Dr. Mkwana?
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, education is what happens to us when we are born and to the time we die. So the education does not stop. But why am I tying my definition to the young? It's because the young will have to be, I am trying to avoid the word indoctrinated. Let me use the word exposed. The old will have now to learn from their mistakes. They will teach themselves. So yeah, that's why I've tied it to the young. Why am I tying again education to society, to a local society? For example, if I can take an example of America. America, they have a curriculum that is local at a district level, local at a state level, but also national at the United States level. Meaning that there are things that a Musoga should learn that we shouldn't bother with the Minyankole. And there are things a Minyankole and the Kramojong should learn that we should not bother with the Musoga and the Muganda. So those remain local. But because we are a nation, then there are other things. The curriculum will set that. But it starts from that local level. Now, what is interesting is because the curriculum alienates, or rather deliberately kind of negates the locality element, it's the reason you have people come to Kampala and they don't want to leave. Because the education kind of prepares them for Kampala. You'll find, you know, I have been arguing with people and they have refused to agree with me, but I want to be an example. One time I was in the office here and I made a statement and the two old women wanted to eat me up. I told them, I don't see the rationale of somebody building in Kampala when you come from Busoga. Come to Kampala, work, go and build in your area. They wanted to eat me up because some of them left Busoga, others who left the other one, I think it was from Fort Poto, Kabale. They have all built in Kampala, and they thought I was attacking them. But it's because the education has alienated them from their people. Chair, we have also seen instances where we lose a lecturer and the body has to stay in the mortuary as people go to their homes to prepare where they're going to bury them, because the education has alienated them from their homes. Even the audience I have here right now, they may be always they're about to raise up in arms against me because I'm telling them that they should be serving their people, but they don't serve their people because the education prepares them for Kampala. So yes, an education should be first of all for you and your people. You can become an international figure, but that doesn't mean that you forget your people. I submit, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that. May I have any reactions to so far what has been said or what has been aforementioned? Do you have any reactions? Please use the raising hand icon. Let me hope you know how to use it. If you have anything to say, to add, or to disagree, or to make any wise remark on what so far has been said, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll call upon you. Otherwise, if we do not, but you may just raise your hand at any point and I shall invite you to have your say. Yeah, we still welcome the members who have just joined us. We still welcome Mr. Aryong or Piotom. You're welcome. We welcome Marisha. Marisha is also a teacher trainee of Chambogo University. You're welcome. We're also joined by Dr. Sembatia Henry Holland. He's one of also the educationists we have, who specializes in constructivism and or education literacy. Yeah, so yeah, feel free. Yes, Madam Bugeza Goret. Yes, please.
Yes, Peter, you raised a good question that can't society be at an international level? And somehow Doctor kind of hinted on it. Personally, I think depending on considering what Dr. Mukwana has said, the education should have the local content, but it can have also the national content as well. It can have the international content to make it contextualize the local, the national, and then the international at some point to make it a full kind of education instead of taking only the local context. We need to put those three items in education. That's my reaction on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. According to Madam Bugeza, she thinks that in as much as localizing education, also internationalizing it or globalizing it is important in the ideology of globalization, probably. In that ideology of globalization, where we count a country or we count ourselves as just citizens of the globe, not just citizens of a country. I think it also works that way. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any further reactions concerning what we have so far talked about here? If you have any reactions, please feel free. Or if you have any question, a follow-up question on any of the claims we have so far made, please feel free to raise up your hand and we shall let you have your say. Okay. Yes. Okay. If we don't have any further questions, allow me then proceed to purpose. Somehow we have handled purpose, but I think we can further extrapolate it to reach all the four ends, all the four corners of the world. Yes, and I will ask a question. I will just ask a question like this. Therefore, should we, in other words, what is the purpose of the education system in Uganda, or what should be the purpose? Yeah, currently, what is the purpose? According to everyone here, at least has gone through this school system or the education system. And according to your experience, what can you say? What do you have to say? What is the purpose of our education system, and what should be the purpose of our education system? What do you have to see? Yes, Mr. Msoke, do you have anything to say about that as far as the purpose of our education system? Or what the purpose of our education system ought to be?
Thank you, Peter. I think Dr. Mukwana alluded to that a little bit in his definition. For me, the purpose of education should be to prepare either the young or the old or whoever for the society they live in. Basically, to be functional members of society. That's the word I would like to use. Basically, to serve the society, to innovate for the society, and to basically move the society forward. The society has also been defined, so I'm not going to go back there. So I kind of agree with Dr. Mukwan on that. The purpose of education should be to serve society, initially the country, and then the world at large. But maybe just take you a little bit back. I wanted to ask Dr. Mukwana whether there are no things that cut across the Baganda, the Basoga, and the Bagiswa, and so on and so forth. And there are things we can educate a person with or in without necessarily, these cultural demarcations and boundaries. In the world we live in today, we've been told it's flat, the world is flat, people work from anywhere. You can live in Uganda and work for a company in the US. So what's wrong with training somebody in the US way of doing things, especially if you're preparing them for a global or an international society like it is now? Let me stop there for now.
Yes, Dr. Mukwana, could you reply or respond to that claim, please?
Thank you very much, my brother Msoke. I love your spirit of debate to begin with. The manner in which you handle debate, is very professional. I want to thank you. Yes, there are many issues that cut across these regions. They are many. And those are the things that make us national. But what is wrong with our education here in Uganda is that everything is national and there is nothing localized. Much as there is a time, I don't know, Minister of Agriculture tried to show what kind of crops should be grown where, in which region it should be producing what. I remember something like that, but it's just talked about and left there. But we needed that emphasis on education right from primary. Emphasis on education right from primary. Lana Gross says, I come from Wajiri. We have jackfruit. We have pawpaw. We have all these fruits. So how can we be of benefit to Uganda through that? Whereas the people in the Kabale grow up knowing that or learning about their Irish growing, and I think matoke, we have a bit of matoke there. And then the north, millet, sorghum. Central, I don't know what is really peculiar with Central, but I'm looking at some things that are, some resources that are in particular areas because they are favored by the weather. such that these people, these children are able to go back and serve. Should they fail to serve at a national level, they cannot fail to serve at a local level. But you'll find somebody, a graduate in Kyambogo University, for example, in Ibanda, selling chips, operating a mobile phone shop, because that's what they can do to survive, because they must remain in Kampala to show that they're educated. Yet you can be in your home and contribute to the growth and development of your home. So yes, Mr. Musoka, I agree with you. There are many things that can cut across, but we have forgotten what is peculiar to different regions. I thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mukwana. I have a hand here. Mr. Muhanguzi Sharif is a practicing teacher. He's also an administrator, education administrator. The last time I checked, he's a master's student of education planning, but most importantly, he's a practicing educationist. Mr. Muhanguzi Sharif, would you please have your say now? Mr. Mhanguzi, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello? Mr. Mhanguzi Sharif, your hand is up. Please take it away. Okay. Okay, maybe Mr. Mhanguzi is challenged. Technology has betrayed him. Okay, yes, do we have any other reaction? If you have any reaction on so far what has been said, what do you think is the purpose of education? Or what do you think the purpose of our education system should be? Now, having understood and having heard from the previous speakers that it must address the needs, the pressing needs of the society, and society here means the local society, but also the global society. According to your observation, as part of this forum, according to your observation, what do you think are the pressing needs of our society so that we attune our education to address them? If you have been in Uganda, at least for the last 10 or 15 years, you must be in the know. If you've been observant, there must be needs that you have identified that you think, if given a chance or given an opportunity, then such and such a need is what ought to be addressed by our education system, be it nursery, primary, secondary school, university, technical education, vocational education, and so on. So what do you think? Let me have you say, you can put up your hand and I will just invite you. Yes, what do you think? Yes. What have you discovered to be the pressing needs of our Ugandan society so that given a chance to design an education or a curriculum, you would put that as your first priority? What are those needs and what do you think must be done? We are still under purpose. I think have we commenced then to policy? But let us first identify, because we cannot draw a policy unless we know the needs. According to what is taking place in Uganda, both in history and in the current way society or the society of Uganda is being run, where is our future and what do you think must happen in our education system? Mr. Ariong Opiotom is a parent who is taking care of several children and is very ardent in educating them. Mr. Opiotom, I would like to invite you. What do you have to say here? What are the pressing needs given an opportunity? Because you're an employer, you're a parent, and you're experienced. At least you know what is happening. What do you advise? Or what could you advise that is pressing? Mr. Arion?
No, Peter, I've just tuned in, so let me first listen in. I could come in later.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do we have any other person to respond to that? Yes, Mr. Kwikiriza. What do you think? What do you think, depending on what, I know you are still a student, a teacher trainee, but you must have realized what is taking place within our society. You can begin with your local society and then come to the Ugandan society and probably the global society, like that, in that order. Mr. Kwikiriza? Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes, Mr. Boyle. Have you had my question? If you have something to say regarding that, please unmute and have your say. Okay. Yes, we're still. I would like us. I wouldn't like us to move to policy. We can only talk about. We can only deliberate on policy after we are sure of our needs. So, what are they? What are our needs that, when given opportunity, our education or education system must address? Abel, you've been unmuting, muting and unmuting. Do you have anything to say, please, concerning that matter?
I think I have something to speak.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Abel. I've heard whatever has been discussed here, and that's that question of what should be what should be focused on in our education. What need do we have in our education? Me as a person, I think it is patriotism, love for our country. I think there is need in that, and I think that there is need to address that, because when you realize many people that are coming out of our education system, they're actually looking at their lives, how to make their lives better, which is not bad at all, which is very good. But I think in an ideal society, in an ideal country, people should be looking at how to make their country better. Because when people are making their country better, there is a way they can save posterity for future generations. Otherwise, when we are looking at ourselves, looking at our personal needs, instead of looking at our country, how to make it better, then there's going to be distraction. That's why I think there are lots of corruption in this country. There's lots of kinds of embezzlement in the country, because people are looking at themselves. Students, learners from childhood, from infantry, they are not taught to love their country. They are not taught patriotism. We used to have patriotic club in our schools, but few of us used to go to it because we were never really taught that in class or by our teachers that patriotism is important. It's important to love your country. Sometimes I follow foreign politics, American and Chinese. When you follow the Americans on X, Twitter, when you follow them, you see a group of people that really love their country. They have the policy of America first. They put their country first. But our leaders, because they have been in this education system and they have been taught me first, they're not putting our country first. So I think it's a result of education, because I think education, the quality of education in the country actually grooms actually can groom the future of a country. So if the quality is good, if patriotism is focused on from infant, I think if it's focused on, it can make good citizens that really focus on national issues. That's why if you are patriotic in your country, you can't get your brother who is unqualified for a job and put him there, yet you know he's not qualified. You see, those people, the Americans, the Europeans, they can't put them there. it's rare to see that they focus at quality first, because America first, because France first, because England first, their country first. So I think there is a lack of patriotism in our country. I think if, as long as that is not solved, if there is still need in that, I think any discussions concerning education system are futile, because that is not groomed in us from childhood. I don't know how we can do that to make us really have that patriotic heart for our country, for our nation, to look at everything as a country, not as a Muganda, not as a Mugisu, not as a what, but if we have that we are all Ugandans. Therefore, because we are all Ugandans, if this person comes to my office and he's a Mugisu and he's qualified, yes, I'll give him a job. I'm a Muganda. But if this Muganda, my brother, is not qualified, I will not give him a job, because I think Uganda first, then Buganda comes in next. So for me, that's what I think. I think patriotism is one of the things that we lack. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Abel. Thank you, Abel, for that mind-cracking submission. Yeah, Abel thinks that the dire need of our country is patriotism, and in his observation, his opinion, he thinks that patriotism should be taught. Patriotism should be inculturated into our learners, and one wonders whether the love of one's country can be inculturated. Probably that would be a debate for another day. But his point is clear. Patriotism. In other words, should we design or redesign our education system or curriculum, then patriotism should be at the front. Yes, Marisha, and then Baker will come later. Yes, Madam Marisha, you're welcome. Come, have your say.
Yes, thank you so very much, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Sarivide. Thank you very much, and everyone who is in the platform. I greet you all. I'm so appreciative of all that we have discussed so far. So helpful and indeed humbled to be part of the presentation. Now, coming back to the pressing needs that I think we should address, or I think that personally, if I'm given chance or opportunity, these are one of the pressing needs I think I should look at first. There are quite a number of them, but I would maybe say two or three. Number one, skills mismatch and unemployment. There are many graduates that lack the practical skills needed in the market job. A lot. And I'm so sure we have witnessed that. There are graduates that step out of schools and they lack the practical skills needed in the market, in the job market. Then overemphasis on academic theory instead of hands-on training. It has been a great challenge here in Uganda or in our country. Limited access to technical and vocational education and training. So I think modernizing the curriculum and integrating more vocational training schools or institutions and strengthening partnerships with many industries can really be of good help to or in order to curb the skills mismatch and employment. The other thing I should say, I could maybe also talk about the low adaptation of technology in our education system. There's a lot of minimal integration of ICT in schools and more especially in the rural areas. And of course, when we look at the impact of ICT or technology in education, it has really a great impact. So I want to believe, or I would believe, that there is a minimal integration of ICT in many of the schools in our country. We also have the limited access to, I'll give an example, the limited access to the computers, tablets, and reliable internet that can actually help us students or help many students to access what we maybe need to know in the world or according to whatever one needs to research about and acquire more knowledge. Then again, I should also mention the fact that there is resistance to digital learning due to probably lack of trained personnel. I should say yes. But of course, here in Uganda or in our education system, when you look at most of the schools, not really, maybe the first world schools can access the digital learning. But when you come back now, when you come back home, when you come back to the rural areas, when you come back to our society, I don't really think we have that chance. So the low adaptation of technology in our education system here in Uganda has really affected us so much. So I would say, or I would suggest that if I can provide digital devices and expand internet accessibility and then train teachers in the e-learning in e-learning, I should say, I believe that we would be far better. And then maybe lastly, I would talk about the weak governance and education policy implementation. There's a lot of corruption and mismanagement of education funds that in our society we find that very many students cannot acquire, or we cannot actually acquire education due to the corruption in our governance. So corruption and mismanagement of the education funds has really affected us, and it's really a pressing need if we are to look at it in that perspective. And then also slow implementation of education reforms. I don't want to go much in details because I think there is another hand that I'm seeing. And then also I would talk about the poor monitoring and evaluation of school performances. I think that when results come back, people focus more, or schools actually focus more on those that are highly passed, those that have highly passed, sorry. You understand? Forgetting that, okay, I think we should sit down and evaluate. How about these that have not excelled the way we expected? So poor monitoring and evaluation of schools. So I think if I'm given power to revise our to revise or to revise the curriculum, I think I would argue, or I would suggest to strengthen the accountability, ensure proper use of funds, and improve education governance. I think I have a lot to say, but for now, I should submit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marisha, for that. We really appreciate that. It's been a mouthful of presentation, you know. Yeah, so there are several that you like to share with us, and really do appreciate it. You have made mention of, lastly, I take note, and I think I will bring it in the near future, in the next 1 hour of our discussion here, the challenge, the examination or an examination-oriented mindset versus a skill-based mindset or a training-based mindset. Yes, lest I forget, before I come to Mr. Mayengo, may I go back to Mr. Kwikiriza? Mr. Kwikiriza's hand was up. Mr. Kwikiriza, come have your say, and then Mr. Mayengo will come next. Baker? Oh, yes, Baker. I think Baker is still challenged. Yes, Mr. Mayengo, you have something to say. Mr. Mayengo, are you there? All right. Mr. Sharif Muhanguzi, your hand is up, please.
Mr. Sabbath-day.
Yes, please, have your say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sabbath-day, for this opportunity and for this arrangement. I'm Eliab Wilson Mayengo, a surveyor by training from Chambogo University, an entrepreneur, and a business coach. I'm not an educationist, but I love platforms where there's mind sharing. And this one is one good one that I've so far been part of. I think that at the primary level, the need that we have as humans, and I think this need could cut across all things that have life. I'm using the word thing to include us as well. All things that have life. At the primary level, the most important thing that we all work for is prolonging life.
I beg your pardon?
The most important thing that we all strive to have is the prolongation of life. Living as long as possible. Now, this happens in two ways. One, it happens at an individual level where Mr. Mayengo, Mr. Serubide works to live individually as long as they can. Then two, the other perspective is Mr. Serubide living as long as he can through posterity, through childbearing and growing, and because to a greater extent that's how that's the kind of system that nature has given us through which we can live and relive. So most of the time our worry is how long are we able to live, and how long are our children able to live, if we have any. Okay, and that goal, its success or failure, is largely hinged on the efficiency with which we relate with our environment. Please mark the word efficiency. The efficiency with which we relate with our environment. The environment including, or the environment used to mean the living and non-living environment. In the living environment, we have, first of all, our fellow humans. Then we have our nearest cousins, the animals. Then we go to the birds, we go to the bacteria, we go to the viruses and everything. How efficiently we are able to interact and coexist with that environment, the living environment, determines how long we are able to live. Secondly, how efficiently we relate with our non-living environment. That is the lakes, the rivers, the wind. In the living, I just forgot a bit of the plants, but they were part of the living environment. The minerals, minerals, I mean everything from sand to stone to everything. Yeah? So how efficient we're able to interact and relate with that environment determines our success rate or failure rate in regards to our goal of prolonging life. Now, that said, therefore, education, in my opinion, Mr. Sebid asked what ought to be the goal or the purpose of education. With that background, I therefore would like to submit that education, the purpose of education, therefore, would be to enable us, first of all, understand who we are. Two, our environment. Then after that, we're able to understand how we can relate with each other as humans, then with each other as a living environment, then also with each other as the living and non-living environments. In my opinion, that should be the purpose of education. Enabling through bringing about the understanding of how most efficiently we can interrelate with ourselves and the environment. that we have, both living and non-living. Therefore, that calls for a very key skill called manipulation. Education should enable us, or should, I'm trying to get that English word, should equip us, yes. Education should equip us with the skills that we need to efficiently manipulate our fellow humans, manipulate our cousins, immediate cousins, the animals, the birds, the plants, the bacteria, the viruses, and manipulate our mineral resources, plus the other non-living resources that we have around us, all geared towards one goal: prolonging life. The rest that we talk about, the IT, the technology, in my opinion, are just tools that enable the manipulation. So far, that we have, that have been invented to enable the manipulation. Now that presents another goal every day: the goal of a continuous understanding of the evolving us and the evolving environment. Education should also have the aspect of projection. Should be able to analyze, should be able to equip us with the tools necessary to analyze trends of evolution of ourselves, of our living environment, and the non-living environment. As we speak today, we have a very big problem as a globe, the problem of global warming. And you see, it's because for a very long time, we didn't have a discipline that has been dedicated to monitoring how we are evolving, both in the living and non-living sense. By us, I mean us, the human beings, and our environment, the living and non-living environments have been evolving. Now we must panic and rush in this moment to make sure we curb a trend that we already set in motion. So I think that education, first of all, like I said, should equip us with understanding ourselves and understanding our environment, then also equip us with the skills necessary to manipulate the relationships. Then also, thirdly, education should enable us, or should equip us with the skills necessary for studying trends and therefore projecting, establishing patterns and projecting into the factors that are affecting our prolonging of life. First of all, at an individual level, and like I said, at a posterity level. Now, that said, when we are able to have the trends, when we are able to understand ourselves and our environment, in my opinion, we are better placed. We are better placed to live a satisfied life empowered by education. That's why we have disciplines such as humanities, physics, biology, chemistry. Now, to me, those are what I would call the primary disciplines of education. The likes of IT and business, those are more of tools of manipulation. But the core disciplines, in my opinion, that would enable us to understand ourselves and our environment are the first four. That is humanities, biology, chemistry, and physics. Maybe you could also add geography, which to me, geography is more of an understanding of the environment than the environment itself. Okay, that's for another day. So in my opinion, that ought to be the purpose of education. Now, you went ahead and asked, what therefore is our problem here? I think our first problem is, in my opinion, the lack of that understanding that I've just given. That most of the education systems that we have currently are focusing more on understanding the tools than understanding the why.
Mr. Mayengo, please come again. You began by saying that our primary need as humans is prolongation of life, is living long.
Living long.
Yes,
At
and
an individual level, first of all, and also at a posterity level.
yes, and in the Ugandan sense, in your opinion, what do you have to say? What do you think is the greatest obstacle against our prolongation of life in the Ugandan context?
First of all, in the Ugandan context is the lack of the understanding that that is our problem. Bw'oba tomanyi ky'ojjanjaba oba olina ekizibu kinene n'okusinga ebikuluma. Nze ndowooza omulwadde w'omusujja gw'ensiri atamanyi nti ekimuluma omusujja gwa nsiri ali mu bulabe bungi n'okusinga obulabe omusujja gw'ensiri mu butadde.
So, in your opinion, our problem is that we've not yet understood our problem.
Yes, first of all. There are several problems, of course. Then two, I think we are not yet, well, because of the first problem, we have therefore not yet designed an education system that is targeting the 4 points I pointed out.
Who we are, our
Understanding
environment.
who we are, understanding our environment, living and non-living. An education system that looks at devising tools of manipulation of relationships, both human and environmental relationships, interhuman and inter-environmental, I would say, relationships. Then four, an education that enables the studying of the trends of evolution. Because in my opinion, if a society that has those four in check, understanding who we are, understanding our environment, understanding the manipulation of interactions or of relationships, and understanding of trends, is better poised to attain the goal of prolonging life. But see, it all starts first of all with understanding the exact problem that you have, which is prolonging life.
So when you talk about trends here, understanding trends, in other words, you're saying that society is not static, and therefore the needs of our society can never be static. They're always evolving, and therefore an education that fails to evolve with the changing society or changing needs of society is bound to fail.
Exactly, because you can't be consuming an environment and remain static. We are constantly consuming our environment, and our environment is constantly consuming us. We're not remaining the same people. Yet the goal remains the same.
Okay.
So therefore, we must have a discipline that is committed and focused at understanding the evolving trends that are coming as a result of this continuous interaction.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayengo. I have to cut you short. Though very, very grateful for your thoughts. Wonderful, rich thoughts. Please stay online. I'll have to invite you to come and take it away some other time. But please stay online. Keep it here. We are very excited. By the time I invited you, I'd not realized it was you. So I'm so excited. Mr. Mayengo is the CEO of Breed and Grow. Breed and Grow, which is one of the companies that aligns people into life, especially doing business education. If you want to start an entrepreneurial venture and you need advice, financial advice, if you need attitude alignment, if you need to understand how you make money, how you keep it, and how you make it grow, Breed and Grow is here. That is as the CEO, and I think we shall advise that you leave your contacts here. Some of the members might need your services. Thank you very much, Mr. Muhanguzi. I've been inviting you severally. Probably you had challenges. please take it away, and Mr. Kwikiriza shall follow thereafter. Mr. Muhanguzi. I don't know, am I alone? Does anyone hear him? Or maybe, I'm afraid, maybe. Okay, yes, yes, Mr. Kwikiriza, while we wait for Mr. Muhanguzi, could you please have your say?
Yes, good evening, everyone here. I want to appreciate the submissions that have come in before I do mine. And I want to first thank Marisha. Marisha brought much of what I wanted to say, but maybe I can give more of what I wanted to talk about. My major concern was with hands-on training, then technical and vocationalizing education system. I want us to look at Mr. Selvide. You're one of the trainers of teachers in Chambogo University, but Marisha talks about how we have people in the job world that can't really perform what they're trained to do. Somebody is trained to be doing accounting, but when they go back to the office on ground, as the saying goes, bidaramuko, they are not doing the exact accounting that they did really study in class. The reason is that we have failed to realize that hands-on is more of an important skill, other than the theory the education system of Uganda is forwarding on to us. I want to show you how the economy of the country is also as a verge, because really we are dealing with more of theories at hand. People that are running our economy and not people that are really that really did the practical part of developing the economy. They are the people who went class and studied the economics, and they're just now running the country economy on the theories of what they studied in class. But my suggestion, what would be my suggestion right now is, I'm going to do economics. Why don't I do the theories as I am stationed somewhere and practicing the theory you are imparting into me? I want to look at, we are going for industrial training the coming months ahead. I don't think Mr. Selvide, this thing of saying that I'm going for school practice, quite, and then you later release me into the field, I will not have enough experience to go and change and impact that child that I will find in the class. It will not be enough. That's why you have a lot of half-baked teachers, and that's why we are having that big challenge of people who are in the field and they're not doing the best of what they're supposed to be doing. And the next thing Marisha brought about, and that was so much important, Marisha talks about vocational education. I want to commend that the government that has put up vocational institutions. They are there, they are few. But the question is, are they really having the facilities that are enough to do the work, the running of those facilities? We are looking at the engineering side of Chambogo University. Do they have the facilities really to keep these engineers of ours with the right tools and the knowledge that they really deserve to work on the roads that we have and improve our infrastructure? Or these people are just being engineers by the name? They said that's the reason as why our roads are full of potholes, and now they have turned into water gathering stations, the potholes that are in the road. So the question is, my biggest threat on the education system is that we have failed to impart skills to our learners and the people who are receiving the education. And then I wanted to respond to Mr. Before I go off, I wanted to respond to this Mukwana Isaac about where I said that the education, preparation of young to serve the society and serving themselves. I may say it is right, but I pose the question to Mr. Mukwana. And Mr. Mukwana, you're still doing, I think you may want to add on what they're studying right now. And you doing education. For me, I think, as you have said, education is that education keeps evolving. Every day you have to learn. And if you're learning a new thing, let it be in class, let it be outside class. It is education. You are getting knowledge from somewhere. I couldn't agree with you that you are sharing the education to the young, because Mr. Mukwana, by the time you grew up, you did not have smartphones. You have learned of smartphones of recent. You have learned to use the smartphone. You have learned to use projectors of recent. So I think, as the previous speaker said, learning should be revolutionized. That we have to be consuming the education with the change. So if Mr. Mkwana can define education to the young ones, I will not agree with him, because every day is a learning day, and that should be important for him to know. And it would be dangerous if Mr. Mkwana came here and said that the old will teach themselves. You know, the old can't teach themselves. Mr. Mkwana, it can't be. I cannot. What will they teach themselves? So there's some things the old will not teach themselves, but what we can say is that we can empower them also to learn the changes and the evolving technologies and the evolving demands of our society. That would be our question, and that would serve us right. And then lastly, I would love if it was, I think this would be suggested in the policy review. I would love us to have the reshuffle in the system of how these things work. We have a lot of us who are going to be skilled and move out into the field, but I'm looking at how many people that are in the offices that should be doing great use to the environment that we are in, and the society, but they are still running our country, they are still running our society on their theories of long time ago. It is so hurting, it is so bad that we can't see education as a tool that would empower us to change that thing, that at this age somebody should go out, because I think their service, yes, they'll have experience, they can be at the advisory roles, but we need new energy in those offices, let's say in the education system, let's say anywhere, because for us, as I may say, we the youth are consuming a lot of the new things that really our society demands. So what I would say is, basically, Mr. Sylvie, is that let's look at the education system and make sure that we make it more of practical than theory. Then let's make more of the technical and the vocational institute, more of vocational institute in the sense of the word, other than going there and they also become theoretical institutions and vocational institutions. Lastly, I want to talk about the curriculum that they rolled out, the new curriculum. They rolled out a curriculum that we thought was very, very, very good for us. But what are we seeing? Should I say they are trying to wash out the humanities this man was talking about? Because we are trying to see literature almost being washed out. We are seeing many of the subjects are being washed out in I think in a slow way. That's what I would say. Then how it is so hard with our economy to implement this education system. The curriculum that they put in place, they rolled out a curriculum, but with no funding that would support it. I come from a place where we are really doing badly off. They say Western is doing badly. We are doing good, but we are doing badly. We are very, 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 very badly off. So we are suddenly in a secondary school where they don't have the access to the requirements to run that curriculum. So does that curriculum really, is it going to help us as we all thought it would? No, it won't, because we are not effectively getting the essence of the curriculum, because it is now again a theory other than a practical. I'll beg to submit.
All right. Right. Thank you, Mr. Kikiriza. You've ended, or in fact, you have catapulted us to another area of policy. And I would like to pose a question to all the discussants here, the policy in education here. And I would like to begin with the assessment policy. What do you think? Let us hear you say something about assessment. What do you think is the best way of ascertaining learning? Because assessment is a method of establishing whether learning has taken place. I think early this week and a fortnight ago, we received results of primary leaving examinations. And also this week we have received results of the Uganda Education Certificate, or Uganda Certificate of Education, that is UCE. And the greatest, what has happened is that whereas the curriculum professes that it is competence-based, meaning it focuses on what learners could do instead of what learners know, the media reporting and the school reporting and UNEB reporting has remained the same. I mean, the term competence means what the learner could do. And if it is true that we went competence-based away from knowledge-based, then we expected reporting in media or media reporting to report a competence-based results differently. For example, if media was to report about the best learner in English language, then they would report that this learner wrote an essay, a 2,000-word essay in 30 minutes, and it was error-free. If media was to report in a competence-based manner, the best candidate in geography invented a method of making vegetation grow in 3 years. Okay, the best chemistry student invented Covidex or Mpox vaccine. I mean, that's what we expected a competence-based reporting to sound like. Unfortunately, we did not hear any difference between the knowledge-based assessment approach and the competence-based assessment approach. So we seem to espouse results, we seem to espouse examinations, scores, and grades, and this is eating at us. So what do you think? Let me hear you. What do you think? What should be the best way, the best policy of assessment? How should we, in other words, communicate that the learner is competent in A, competent in B, competent in Y? Madam Nabukera, you've been silent. May I invite you to have your say in this matter now, please?
Thank you so much, Mr. Serubide. I was really your former student. I studied with Muhanguzi Shali, Luvunya Geoffrey. That was the class. I think it was 2000. We graduated in 2022. So I was part of your class. Yes. So thank you so much. What I can say about assessment, it's really confusing because like the way you have explained, it is saying competence-based curriculum where we need to see what learners can do. Can learners manipulate, use that mathematics to come up with something that is so unique and it really solves a problem in real life? But that's what we did not get, because you may not blame the media and the society, because the reporting from the director of UNEB, the ministry itself, it was indeed confusing. The way the descriptors on things to do with a learner demonstrated an extraordinary creativity in line to do with manipulating these numbers. Someone qualifies for A, and someone with a B just got it's outstanding. When you look at the descriptor, high level of manipulation of maybe the numbers. So there is still a confusion. And then we don't need to forget the fact that as a society, we are about marks, things to do with result. A learner has got 98, so they tend to think that that learner is really intelligent. But then we don't need to forget that the mere fact, when you look at the scores of activities of integration, some schools were forging these marks. Some schools were forging these marks to send them to the UNEB. No one came to evaluate that, yes, let's look at these marks. Things to do with project work. Some schools didn't even have project work, but learners got scores. So there is a challenge to do with even evaluation. No one is on ground to evaluate that these people, the marks they are getting, are they real? Are they correct? Is the learner able to get this? Does she qualify to get the A? But then we don't forget that even education, it is to do with politicking. A lot of politicking is in education, yet it is the mainstream when we need to get the cream that will solve the society problems. But we still have challenges. But then as you tend to tell us that we don't need to complain, we need to come up with solutions. But me, doctor, I'm pushing an initiative where, Mr. Selvid, I'm pushing an initiative where we need to get this narrowing the curriculum, where we base a learner. I'm a learner who wants to go in a medical field. I start straight away with the biology, the chemistry, the mathematics. I start right away in senior one to manipulate those subjects to see that I excel in medicine. I want to do with finances, accounting. I start manipulating the math, the accounting right away in senior one. But we shall still get these challenges where a learner is judged on things to do with the marks, on things to do with the grade. The first grade was supposed to get 88. Now you see, learners have got E's, but someone is saying they failed. Learners got C in subjects. Still, the schools are like teachers did not do their work well. So we fail even to understand. They are saying learners what they are supposed to do, but it is not reflected in the curriculum itself. Maybe later after the curriculum, where we shall see that this curriculum is effective when we see a learner coming up with an app. Let's say in ICT is able to create an app. The learner is able to create a telescope. It's already to come up with it, but it is still in theory. No one has created it like the way you have said. We have not seen these things. Like sitting, the best learner would have been best created maybe an essay or came up with a book to do with solving the society in line with English. But it was not the case. Maybe we wait, we see it later because we cannot see the effectiveness of this curriculum on the basis. We need to realize it after these learners are out of school and we see how they manipulate with the society. But if we don't see that, that means the new curriculum is doing, it's just there to just help the political people to earn votes and so on. So Mr. Selvide, as I conclude, I'm just pushing this initiative where we need to narrow down the curriculum to align with the learners, students' career path. I want to do, my dream is to be in law. I start away with subjects of law. I study them, I focus on that so that I become this person based in law. So that's what I can say, but still evaluation and assessment, it's still lacking. The media, I will not blame the media because the media is making money and these media houses are handled by these people in government. So we still have a challenge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Madam Olivia is also a practicing teacher. Thank you very much for your views, and I think they're quite enriching. They're quite enriching, especially in the debate of assessment. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 30 minutes to go, and we would like to go to progress, but we're still under policy. And I wanted us to focus on the best policy on assessment and evaluation. How best can we communicate that the learner has learned? In the current curriculum, for those who do not belong to our field, the teaching field, the competence-based curriculum versus the knowledge-based curriculum answers the following questions. The knowledge, whereas the knowledge competence, or rather the knowledge-based curriculum answered the question, what does the learner know? What does the learner remember? How much does the learner know? How much does the learner remember? The competence-based curriculum argues along the following question. What can the learner do? According to the competence-based curriculum, one who knows is one who does. One who does is one who knows. You do not know until you do what you claim you know. So in other words, I'm a teacher of English and a teacher of literature. if you know drama or if you know plays, then you can write a play or you can stage a play. If you know film, then you can make a film or you can write a script. And that's what we expected. So if you are a teacher of history in the competence-based curriculum, then we expected that somebody or one of the greatest learners or performers in 2024 in this competence-based curriculum in history ought to have written a history that is not written. For example, maybe the history of the Madi people or the history of the Kakwa. Probably, I'm not saying they do not have a history, but I'm saying, in other words, somebody wrote, Elana wrote a history of maybe land grabbing. Maybe they, for example, if they're in northern Uganda, maybe the history of coin. Okay, where is coin? Who is the mother of coin, and so on, something like that. In that manner, then we would say, or we would argue, this is a competence-based curriculum. Ironically so, what we are hearing is the same reporting. These are the number of A's, these are the number of D1s. Previously, we would celebrate D1s and first grades. Now we are celebrating A's. So I don't know, because a certificate is not a local document, but an international, an international document. In other words, it is to be received by everyone in the world to assess. Could there be a standard way of writing a certificate? But because my experience tells me that if you applied, for example, if you applied to any university outside Africa or outside Uganda, some of the universities will ask for a translation of your grades. So probably, can we run away from grades as the best way of communicating the extent to which the learners have learned? Can we, or should we? I want to invite Mr. Msoke again before I invite Kwikiriza. Yes, Mr. Msoke, what do you have to say about this? Because you are a parent, and we would like to ask you, how would you like to ascertain, in which way would you like to establish that your child has attained from this education, at least before graduation?
Peter, it's a tricky one. I must say, I must admit. I guess it's one of the challenges our policymakers face as well. How do you ascertain competence without measuring? Measuring automatically means standards or certain grading. And when grading comes in, competition comes in. When competition comes in, you know what happens. Case study Uganda. So as a parent, honestly, it's one of the things I struggle with, I must admit. But what I do, since we defined our rather education as, first of all, being able to be familiar with your environment, not just the physical, but even the human and all that environment. So personally, what I do is I expose my children to all sorts of things. So besides the regular academics, what you'd call academics, the schoolwork, they do piano, they do swimming, they do robotics, they do all these other things. So whereby for me, mastery is, for example, in swimming, mastery is being able to, what kind of swimming techniques do you know? So I don't see how we're going to run away from the doing part, honestly. If it's piano, then obviously you need to play a piece, and these pieces keep advancing from elementary to, the more complex ones. If it's mathematics, you've got to be solving, complex problems as you progress. So for me, there's no other way apart from keeping the grades, but maybe not overemphasizing the passing and failing. I don't know if I've answered the question, but
thank you, Mr. Msoke. Thank you, Mr. Msoke. And I asked this question from a parent's point of view, wondering how a parent would like to ascertain whether their child has learned or learning is taking place in their child. I would like to invite another person. He's a parent, an entrepreneur, and an employer. He is, of course, a parent, but he's an entrepreneur who owns a business. And probably he would like also to tell us what kind of graduate would you like to see apply for a job in your company? Mr. Ariong Opiotom, can you talk now?
Oh, hello.
Yes, please. You're welcome. Have your say on this question, please.
Oh, well, I have no say on the question, but I need help really. I have a child. My partner thinks the child should begin speaking English as early as 2 years, 1 year. Personally, I think the child should learn the local language and master it before he or she can learn English or whatever. My argument is that the local language should be a basis on which this child should learn the other language out of which other books and information mostly are written. My partner thinks she's making the teacher's work easier for the child to begin English as early as possible. My question to her was, how do you call a giraffe in Luganda or your local language? And the reply was Entulege. Personally, I know a giraffe is Entuga. So I mean, how should we as parents approach this issue of education? Do we as parents really know what we get, what we aim at as we educate our children, or we are following a government directive that all children must go to school? And when the government tells us that all children must go to school, do they really know? Do they really give us value? Do they really know where we are headed, or they are just aimed at rolling us and making us easier political targets and manipulation tools? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite Madame Goret Bugeza, is a language teacher. Yes, Madame Bugeza, what do you think? What advice could you give to this parent? Would you expose his 3-year-old or 2-year-old to all languages available? For example, Kiswahili, French, Luganda, English at that age, or you would rather, or you would advise that the father's decision or the father's line of thought is better? I mean, that let the child be exposed to the local language and then English would come later. As a teacher of language, Madam Goret, what would you advise?
Thank you, Peter. I did follow up in the beginning. I moved out a bit, but I'm one person who believes in multilingualism, but at the early age, we need to embrace our languages first, to master in them, to get to understand them, because we need to do some comparisons at a later stage. And we are told, today it is something that is on vogue, that we need to embrace our local languages, because we think in them first, in order to embrace other languages of others. So at an early stage, we really need to do much as far as our languages are concerned. Then as we go on, as our children go ahead in life, in school, they need to embrace languages of others. Because as you know, as the earlier definition was of education, we are living in the global village, so we need also other languages. We don't need to only take ours. We need languages of others so that we can We can facilitate mobility. We can facilitate other things that come with multilingualism. That's my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Goret. Madam Goret is a teacher of French, and that's why I wanted her view on whether we should expose the 2-year-old or the 3-year-old to other languages as early as 2 years, or we would embrace the parents, the father's thought that his child should be exposed to only one language, local language, and then any other language could come back later. Now, as teachers of language, we all know that after the age of 6, it is not as easy as it would be when below 6 to get a new language. And it is upon this background that I would like to invite Dr. Mkwana, who specializes in language education, to help this parent. Dr. Mkwana, what do you think would be the best way, the best advice you would give to this parent? Should he expose the 2-year-old to more than one language, that is English, Kiswahili, Lusoga, Runyoro, German, and so on, or they should stick to what he has called the local language first? What's your opinion, your professional opinion on this matter?
Thank you, Chair. What I know is that I don't think there is a parent who intentionally teaches a child a language. Children at that age have the capacity of even learning 5 languages concurrently. So I don't see the intentionality. The only challenge is when a parent is on pressure for a child to learn a particular language. Children, you can be home speaking Luganda, and at the neighborhood, they speak Acholi, and the child will speak Luganda and Acholi at the neighborhood. Personally, I am a living example. A Ugandan married a Tanzanian. At home, we speak English. We traveled one time to Tanzania for 2 weeks. My children had started speaking Swahili in 2 weeks. So let the children be. Whatever they're exposed to and whatever they can learn, it is fine. And by the way, sometimes you even don't know what your children will use to bring food on the table. So there shouldn't be these strict rules that now my child should not learn this language, is too young. My child should, no. Let the children be. Whatever they learn. I've never taught my children Lusoga. Neither do we speak Lusoga at home. But my children speak Lusoga. We can decide to speak Lusoga. I never taught them. We never speak Lusoga at home. But as soon as they go to school, like in nursery, they learn Lusoga. They have come to Kampala a few times. They speak Luganda. Now, those are children for you. So, dear parents, don't be under pressure whether the child should learn this language, should not learn this language, or you should take a child to a particular environment. Let the natural course take its course. That would be my advice, honestly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oryong, have you picked something from these responses? May we know?
Yes, I have. The only other question is, does government intend well for us, the ignorant parents, and as far as education and educating our children is concerned, or they are as helpless as we are?
Yes, Dr. Mkwana, would you mind, please, responding to that, please?
Yes. And yes, my brother Pio, the answer is yes. The government means well. But I also want you to know that most of the policies that are done by government are for try and error. They mean well. The intention of government is well. By the way, government wants children to learn. Government wants children to get jobs. Government wants children to be successful. Whatever they plan is for good. But the policies are for try and error. Some are picked from this country. Some are picked from this organization. Some, like Uganda, we pick from UNESCO. UNESCO said this, like the competence-based curriculum picked from America. We keep, but it's all for good. And I really don't want to say we are helpless. We are not helpless. The way God created each of us, He has empowered each of us to thrive and be successful in this world. What a parent has to do is to collaborate with the government. The problem, Mr. Pierre, we have is that with the introduction of multipartism, people want to think that whatever government is doing is bad, or the opposition, the political parties that are not in power, want to demonize. I'll give you an example. I'm a pure product of government schools. I've studied from government schools, and not even good government schools like those of Isaiah. Isaiah went through Chambogo College. Those are sounding schools in this country. For me, I'm from those rural government schools. I'm a product, and I'm not alone. I know very many that have gone through government schools and have succeeded. So government means well. I want everybody on this forum to know that there is no government that comes up with an education policy intending to punish the citizens. What does government gain from bringing a policy that will make citizens have half-baked education? Half-baked education. I think government will benefit more when the citizens can be productive, because that's when they can get the taxes. The tax base can widen. We can see growth. So this is my take, honestly. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 10 minutes to go, and in fact, 5 or 6 minutes to go. And I would like us to talk about the progress of our education, or the future of our education. And the future starts now. And you can talk about this future or this progress using the stakeholders. Use the stakeholders. The stakeholders of education here are the learner, the parent, the school, the teacher, the employer, and the world in general. I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Mayengo. In fact, you are my person here. I would like you to come in here. Considering the present, what would you advise, or what would you say the future holds, or which way should we go? Mr. Mayengo, which way should we go?
Thank you, Mr. Selvide, and thank you everyone in the house. First of all, I'd like to give a brief comment about the assessment. The current curriculum, like Mr. Selvide has highlighted, focuses on competence. Now, I would assume that he who judges competence is competent. How do you?
I wonder if that has been captured. Would you come again, please? Would you say that again?
Yes, I would assume that he who judges competence must be competent. I think the biggest challenge we have is that, for example, my physics teacher who taught me in O-level senior 4, 2007, currently sat another class last year for senior 4 on a competence-based curriculum.
Wow.
2007, that's about how many years back? 18 years ago. Now the same guy has sat a class last year on a competence-based kind of assessment. Question, how competent is he in terms of physics? Because if competence is doing, then you must be competent at doing. Now we have a challenge here that we have people who were assessed on the knowledge level, who have been assessing on the knowledge level for 18 years, and they're now assessing at the competence level without themselves being tested for competence.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa,
I'll leave
whoa.
that at that. Now, about the future progress. This I'll give this in light of my earlier submissions, that if the goal is solving a problem efficiently, then therefore our focus progressively should be a more efficient way of solving problems. For example, if it took 20 years to get a vaccine for polio, it should take 3 days to get a vaccine for COVID. In my opinion, that's progress. COVID is a new virus, and we are able to understand this new virus in the shortest time possible and design a solution in the an efficient and effective solution in the shortest time possible. In my opinion, that's progress. So therefore, what would I look at if I were to administer education? First of all, if I had a fresh learner, I would make sure, first of all, I expose them as much as possible. One, expose them to what we knew, history. If, for example, they're going to be doctors, expose them to the history of medicine. What did we know 50 years back? What do we know 20 years back? In as far as medicine is concerned, and as far as malaria is concerned, HIV is concerned, then I would expose them to the various progressions of knowledge that have come through the ages. How has our knowledge of malaria, for example, come improving? Then two, what do we know now? Okay. Then what don't we know? In my opinion, the shortest period of time should be focused to understanding what we knew and what we know, because what we know, we already know. The bigger part of a learner's life should be focused on understanding what we do not know. But don't forget, I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned earlier in my earlier submissions, that the understanding or the establishment of and understanding of trends is a key aspect of education. Because with trends, we're able to make projections into the future. We're able to know, to add a fourth question of what can we know? What did we know? What do we know? What don't we know? What can we know? Through the projections. And in my opinion, that would be a complete education system with an assessment tool that is strictly competence-based. If one intends to be, for example, I have my firstborn who is 11 years now. She's in P6, and I think since she was 5, she always told us she wants to be a vet. And I see it in her eyes when she meets a dog by the street that's stranded, maybe looks sick. You see the compassion in her eyes about the dog. When we go to my farm to look at the goat, you can see the compassion when she's in the goat house, goat's pen. Now, in my opinion, that girl should be at the feet of Dr. Paul. Those of you guys who watch TLC on DSTV, there's that guy called Dr. Paul who is a vet in the US, I think. Should be a Dr. Paul. We have a vet clinic here where I stay in Chirinya, Vet Love. My daughter should be attending school at Vet Love. Should be understanding what is a dog made up of. What are the diseases that attack dogs, historically present, at the present, and for the future? In my opinion, that would be a complete form of education. One that, first of all, understands who we are and our environment, both living and non-living, how best we can manipulate the relationships of us and the environment and ourselves as well as human beings. Then also establishing and understanding trends of the continuous evolving us and environment. I beg to submit, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayengo. Madam Marisha thanks you. And then Madam Nabukera also thanks you for your mind, for your thoughts. Mr. Abel has also said this is insightful. They're very grateful. Thank you very much. I love the way you have concluded this, that how competent are the assessors? If we have an examiner who has been assessing the knowledge-based curriculum for the last 2 decades or a score years, how then is she or he competent to assess a competence-based curriculum? In fact, it begs a question that all of us who are knowledge-based or knowledge-trained, we ought to return to some kind of training. All right, we might not return to senior 4 or senior or P7 or senior 6 and such like, but I think there ought to be probably a diploma to get trained in how we can competently assess a competence-based curriculum. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 3 minutes to 8, and we always end on time. We always open at least 5 minutes to 6, and then we end at least 3 minutes to 8, so that we keep the time. I would like to thank each and everyone who has participated in this discussion. We really, really grateful for your presence. Yes, Za, could you please mute? Za, could you please mute? And I was trying to conclude, and by thanking all the members, the discussants here. This is In Truth and in Spirit Well of Worship Fellowship. It's a non-denominational fellowship where we share about life and about God. Feel free to join in. Follow us on Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on YouTube. We always post these talks on our YouTube. You just go and type small I, big T, small I, big S, and then fellowship, and then you will see us. Please like us and follow us there. We do believe that the greatest problem of the world and the greatest problem of humanity is sin. And sin is not what we do, but sin is a power that does us towards death. And we do believe that only God is the solution. The name of that God is Christ Jesus. We also believe that we get that salvation by grace of God and through the faithfulness of this God, not by our works or by our doings or not doings, but only God. And it is through our trust in him that we access this salvation. We also believe that as long as we are living, we get educated continuously. Education is a continuous, it's a continuous agenda. So you continue being educated, you continue learning, continuous learning, relearning, and unlearning. We also believe that work is a gift of God. So work. You don't pray for miracles. Okay, you don't pray for miracles. If it is a miracle, you don't need to pray for it. It comes by itself. But as far as work is concerned, work to improve yourself, work to improve your environment, work to improve others. Until we meet again next Thursday, we always also have other fellowships on Monday. On Monday, we have a Q&R. If you have a question on life, if you have a question on family, question on sex, question on education, question on God, question on faith, question on demons, and so on, question on economy. Okay, please come here, and we would like to appeal to Mr. Mayengo to join those Q&R, especially in these areas of life. We would very be glad to see you. Thank you, Baker, for attending. Thank you, Mr. Boyo, Mr. Mayengo Marisha, Mr. Luvunya, Nabukera, Nicholas Isaac Mukwana, our host, Jethro Msoke. For now, I am Peter Calvin and Sabbath-day. Until we meet again, good night and bye-bye.